And this is all down to Matt keeping it down to 5 minutes. We're just going to give you an update of what the GSA's Agile Sourcing work stream has been working on. So do you want to take that one?
Thanks. Okay, so there was a previous episode to this. So people who watch TV serials have previously, this is what happened. So some of you may have attended that session in November 2022. Some of you may not have, but this is what I presented then, which is traditional sourcing. Which is I compare that to what the software development life cycle we call waterfall model, which is unidirectional and linear. It just goes like this. There's no going back. There's no collaboration. It's just, this is what I want. What is your bid? And that's how the RFP is run. Compared to a circular, more collaborative, and more iterative approach, which is agile sourcing. And typically this happens when requirements are a bit fuzzy, clients are not really sure what they want, and there is a lot of new technologies out there. I won't mention the bingo word, but everybody knows what it is. Every few years there's a new thing that comes up, which typically the internal IT function of most companies, they're not abreast with what's happening out there on the supply side. The suppliers are always a step ahead because they always have some client who's at the bleeding edge and asking for, can you do this in blockchain with the data or whatever, chat, GPT or whatever it is. So they are in a better position to advise. So when you actually consult with suppliers and help, that helps shape the requirement to begin with, and the entire evaluation process, is enriched by that. So from the working group, we had a couple of sessions, and this is something that we've developed, which is the readiness assessment framework. Now, agile sourcing is not a panacea for all ailments, or it's not a silver bullet, but it is very useful in situations where it is really needed. So how do you determine that? How do you determine whether a particular supplier evaluation process that you're running, call it tendering, call it RFP, whatever you call it, lends itself to agile sourcing, or it doesn't? So we proposed 8 different criteria. They're listed here. I'll just jump to the next slide. These are rated on a scale of 1 to 5, and the next slide really talks about how that's done. Right? So the first question is compliance imperatives. So if compliance to, and typically this happens with PSUs in the government sector and some other organizations that have very rigid policies and norms in terms of how a tender has to run, how an RFP has to run. If the answer to this is that we have no flexibility, we have to do it in a certain way, then you don't even need to look further. Agile sourcing is not for that particular situation. But then going further, are you clear about your requirements? Do you know exactly what you want? If you do, maybe agile sourcing is not the best thing for you. It depends on some of the other questions that you ask. What are your evaluation criteria? Is it best quality, lowest price? That's typically a traditional sourcing approach. Or is it which supplier can bring to the table things that I haven't thought about, right? Yeah. Which supplier can bring innovation? That's a word which was used by one of the earlier speakers. What is it exactly? That has to be demonstrated. So it is precisely by having those collaborative and iterative sessions that the supplier's enrichment of shaping the requirement itself comes out. Executive buy-in. Are the people on the buy side, is management open to something like this, or they're so steeped in the conventional waterfall methodology that they're saying, no, you've got to do it this way. This is how we've been doing procurement. This is how we've been running RFPs. You should just do that. So that's, if they prefer traditional, the answer is no. Excuse me. Stakeholder engagement. One of the things that Agile sourcing requires, it's a prerequisite, is the stakeholders, the people who are actually going to be working with the supplier and supplier teams. They need to get engaged much more intensively in the evaluation process, because collaborative solution development is basically about collaboration, right? You have the SMEs from the buy side, SMEs from the sell side, sitting down in brainstorming sessions. Then you have that across, let's say you've invited four bidders, have that across those 4 bidders, and they need to put in that kind of time and energy into actively engaging with the teams from the supply side. So this is a prerequisite. So if they're not ready to do that, then it's probably a score rating of 1. How unique are the services? Are they standard and commodified, or are they special? You need to develop something special. Again, look at Agile sourcing. What's the nature of the relationship you're seeking with the supplier? Is it just I'm the buyer, you're the seller, that's it. Just a transaction, contract, book, you're done. That's one way of looking at it. The other is a partnership, a strategic partnership towards the future, a long-term relationship, which is essentially, there's a mutually beneficial relationship, win-win situation. There are many ways to characterize that. And lastly, what's the nature of the source work? Is it routine operation, or are you calling suppliers in to bid for a transformative project, something that is going to change the way you do your business? So, if the latter is the case, then it's probably a 5. So that's essentially, these are a bunch of questions so there's a whole template and an Excel worksheet that backs this up. You can use that and do the rating for each of the criteria. And then if your average is 4 or higher, then it's a strong candidate for Agile. And if you do have, while the score may be higher than 4 or higher, you might have 1 or 2 of the criteria that gets a lower rating, 1 or 2. That's basically an indicator that these are risks that you need to manage and resolve. If your rating is 3 or less than 4, then it's possible, but it may not be easy. You've got to watch out for things that are rated 1 or 2. And if your rating is less than 3, traditional sourcing may be the best thing for you. 5 minutes?
That's absolutely perfect. Thank you. Yes.
So, Agile presentation.
Yeah. So, if anybody's interested in joining the GSA's Agile Sourcing workstream, we are definitely open to more people participating. I think we'd be right in saying, Hemant, that what we've noticed is this is actually being driven by the buyers, and the service providers are actually the laggards in Agile sourcing at the moment. So if you are a service provider and actively engaging in Agile sourcing, then we'd love to have you participate in our workstream and share. So right at the very beginning, I opened up with the work the GSA is doing on sustainable sourcing, and for us, Agile sourcing does deliver sustainable sourcing, and what we're trying to do is create a body of proof points that those relationships that are entered into via an Agile sourcing approach actually are relationships that deliver ultimate results back to the business. So any case studies, we are looking for those, so please do participate. Right, so thank you very much, Hemant, and it's lunchtime. So before you go, a big thank you to all of our speakers and panelists today. Really, really insightful stuff on all things ESG. And we are coming back for a whole host of different presentations on diversity, equity and inclusion, looking at people in the workplace, looking at supplier diversity, looking at cultural alignment transformation, and also looking at the big subject of AI and contracting for AI and ethical deployment of AI. So loads to look forward to this afternoon. But for now, lunch, and thank you very much, everybody.